but usually every year, Illinois has that one signature road win that you least expect. Welcome back, everyone. This is Bando's Breakdowns, episode 65. My name is Zain Bando. Thank you so much for joining me. I greatly appreciate it. It is Friday, October 24th, 2025. Hope you all had a great week. Hope you all are getting excited for the weekend, because I certainly am. Let's dive into the world in sports like we usually do on this program. So, of course, I would be remiss if I did not go through a few particulars. So let's get into those. Please be sure to like, follow, and subscribe to the Empty the Edge Podcast Network. That should be step 1, 2, and 3 that you guys do every single week. It really does help us out. We just surpassed 1,000 subscribers not too long ago, so we greatly appreciate it if you guys showed love on that front to do so. YouTube.com/ETB Network. Again, that's where you can find all of the shows, not just Bando's Breakdown, but every other show across the network as well, whether that is Forever Power 5, ETB Sports with Nick Morganson and myself, which just came out the other day, alongside several other shows across the network. So if you could go hit that subscribe button, that would really mean a ton to me and everybody else that's a part of this as it continues to grow and find the algorithms and all that good stuff. If you don't like watching me, which is completely understandable, if you guys are too busy to do that, please be sure to listen to Bando's Breakdowns wherever you get your podcasts, whether that's Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Acast, and so much more. It is available everywhere. Literally your podcast platform of choice. You can go on there and find your means very easily with whatever it is that you decide to listen in for. So with that being said, please be sure to go and check that out over there. It would be greatly appreciated if you guys did so there, because if you did so there, number one and number two, what would make the most sense is if you guys went over there, checked it out, you can add it to your RSS feeds, is what I meant to say. And by doing that, you'll be able to find everything you need in order to listen in, not just to my show, but again, every other show across the network. So again, please be sure to listen to Bando's Breakdowns wherever your podcast. All right, let's get into what we're going to be talking about on the show today, because it's a big show, it's a fun show, and in fact, that's not the right banner. Which one is, though, is this one. So Zan's overview, of course. With that being said, let's get into that. So Zan's overview this week, it's going to be a fun show. What we're going to be talking about this week is a lot of stuff. We're going to be talking about a couple head coaching firings. We'll go through those very quickly, as I don't want to beat a dead horse with those, given that both programs that we will be talking about have moved on. One of them is more prominent than the other, so we'll get into those a little bit. We'll also talk about what's going on across the Big Ten, what games to look forward to this week. We're going to be recapping one of them, specifically Northwestern versus Purdue, before getting into the Novig play of the week, which is going to be Illinois versus Washington, of course, because how could it not be the huge game in Seattle, where the loser of the game is more than likely eliminated from the college football playoff. So something to bear in mind there as well. Very important that you guys keep tabs on that, because that's a huge game for a lot of different scenarios in the Big Ten, as both teams are 5-2. We'll go over UFC 321. We'll recap UFC Vancouver. We'll talk some NFL and so much more. So it should be a fun show. We're going to keep it pretty short and simple as usual, 30 to 45 minutes, as we do every single Friday. So just something to bear in mind there. It should be a fun time. Looking forward to talking about it all. And let's get into it. So without further ado, here we go. So let's get into it. The big firings over the past several days: Billy Napier out of Florida, Jay Norvell out of Colorado State. I really want to hone in on this Billy Napier firing, because this Billy Napier firing was a long time coming. It was one of those firings where it was a matter of when he was going to get fired, not if he was going to get fired. Florida struggling in the SEC so far this season. Let's go through who Florida has left on its remaining schedule, because I think that will give us a good idea as to whether or not Florida made the right decision to fire him mid-season. This is becoming more of a trend these days. It started with James Franklin about a week and a half ago or so, and now it's the trickle-down effect as I like to call it. So let's talk about Florida. Currently 11th in the SEC, sitting with an overall record of 3-4, an identical record to the Penn State Nittany Lions, if you will, who also recently fired James Franklin, as I just alluded to a second ago. So that's an interesting comparison there. Let's take a look at Florida's remaining schedule. It just got it just what to me, what's fascinating about this Napier firing is it literally happened a week after an upset of Texas. They got pounded by Texas A&M in College Station, 34-17. So that prompted Florida to make a massive change there. So Florida goes ahead, fires Billy Napier with about a month to go in the season. Florida's on a bye this coming Saturday. But let's take a look at their remaining schedule to see how I think they finish. Again, 3-4 right now overall. Can it make a bowl game? That's a big question. So this is who it has left. It has Georgia, who's a very good team right now. Georgia is still fighting for its SEC championship chances. That's November 1st. I don't like their chances there, so give me a loss there. So Florida is now 3-5. Okay, we move on now to Kentucky at Kentucky. Tough place to play, but can Florida win that one? Yeah, so I would say they're 4-5. Okay, then we move over to November 15th. Again, we're getting to the back half of the season. This is where things can get really ugly really quickly. I think it loses the Ole Miss game because it's at Ole Miss, and Ole Miss is a hostile environment. There's a lot of rumblings going around that Lane Kiffin may leave Ole Miss for Florida. I don't see how that's possible. I think he would be an idiot for leaving Ole Miss, but nonetheless, I think Ole Miss wins the game. Then the following week, again, we're getting down to the final 2 weeks of the regular season. The following week, Tennessee goes to Florida. Tennessee could still be fighting for an outside chance to go to the SEC championship game, although that's easier said than done because Alabama has the head-to-head tiebreaker against the Vols. So they got to hope that Alabama starts to lose a little bit in order to have hope. Because if they don't lose, there's a chance that Alabama is more than likely a shoo-in for the SEC championship game. So with that being said, I think Tennessee beats Florida at the Swamp. And then, of course, it gets Florida State at the end of the year. Florida State right now has quickly turned into a dumpster fire. Um, it's a complete utter shock given where they were at the end of August, early September to see where Florida State has fallen. It is not a good situation. They're in Tallahassee, even though it seems like Florida State is banking on keeping Norvell at least through the end of the season before they do a comprehensive program review, as it was reported in the last several days. So that's going to be interesting. Regarding the Jay Norvell firing, before we move on, this was again another situation of it's a matter of when, not if. Jay Norvell was given a lot of time. He was hired around the same time that Brett Bielema was at Illinois, so they've had the same kind of trek in terms of turning Colorado State into a winner. And Jay Norvell could not do that. I don't know who wants the Colorado State job at this point because I think it's one of the worst in college football. I don't really think anyone is really jonesing to go to Colorado State, but I could be wrong. I don't really know much about their program. They haven't been relevant in a really long time. But what I can tell you is it's clear that Colorado State wanted to make a change. That is what they are doing, and they're moving forward as such with it. So actually, I'm in favor of this move, but I do think in terms of notoriety and stuff, I do think that Billy Napier's firing was a lot more notable. So just something to bear in mind there as we move forward. Again, 2 new coaching firings. Will there be more on the way in the coming weeks? That remains to be seen, but I'll keep you guys posted as we move along. Let's talk about college football week 8 as we dive further into this and as we move into week 9 as well. The biggest college football week 8 takeaways. Here are a couple that I have. Indiana is legit. Indiana has a path to the Big Ten title game if I've ever seen one. Let's take a look at Indiana's remaining schedule because now you have to take them seriously as a national championship contender. It's as simple as that. Indiana, number 2 team in the nation, highest ranking in program history. I got to eat my words. I was wrong. I thought this was going to be a crash and burn type year for Kurt Signetti. I honestly thought last year was all hype, but Fernando Mendoza and company have gone in, proven me wrong, proven to me that I am a fool. and show that they can beat the crap out of my alma mater. So there's that as well. Let's dive deeper into Indiana though and talk about where Indiana is headed, because right now an undefeated season is staring right at them in the face, as they really have no crazy competition remaining. The only game they really have to worry about is a surging UCLA team this Saturday. UCLA on an outside track to win the Big Ten. You have to remember, UCLA is yet to lose a Big Ten game. They started, I think it was 0-3, 0-4 before they really started to pick things up. They've won now a couple in a row. Obviously, they've had a resurgence. If it can upset Indiana on Big Noon Kickoff, the Big Ten championship race gets more interesting. But let's assume, though, that Indiana wins that game in Bloomington. Then they go to Maryland. Maryland is not a good football team. I think Mike Locksley is more than likely going to be shown the door, or he's going to be given an ultimatum final season in College Park, to where if in 2026 the Terrapins don't make a bowl game, he can be shown the door there as well. So let's chalk that up as another win. Then it goes to State College. Okay, this is an interesting game because Indiana, it's been the house of horrors every time they've gone to State College over the last, I'd say, 20 to 30 plus years. So they're asking Indiana to pull off an impossible task, even though Penn State isn't very good. I'm going to say that's a coin flip game. That's a possibility for a major upset. Okay. And you have to remember, this is during a stretch where Penn State plays Ohio State the week before that to begin the month of November, and then Indiana. So it's something to bear in mind there. So that's a coin flip game. I'm going to say that's a possibility for a loss. So maybe their first loss comes in State College on November 8th. But what I can tell you is the next two games, which a bye is sandwiched in between, they'll win. They're playing Wisconsin, which is in total free fall mode. Just had that letter come out from the athletic director, Chris McIntosh, saying how much he is in full support of Luke Fickell remaining as the coach, which I just think is wild. Luke Fickell has not done anything to deserve to remain the coach in Madison. It's been a horrible experiment there. He should have never left Cincinnati, but that's either here nor there. Anyway, though, they'll win that game, and they should be able to win the final game of the year against Purdue. Again, Purdue, a rebuilding program in West Lafayette under Barry Odom. They have some potential, but again, defensively, they're just horrible. They keep giving up 40 to 50 points a game. That's not a recipe for success at all. And Purdue has not won a game in quite a bit. They haven't won a game in almost a month and a half. So that doesn't help anybody's cause. And that'll be a loss there as well. That's the final game of the regular season, Thanksgiving weekend. So all things considered, 11-1, 12-0 is very much on the table for Indiana, as is Ohio State. Ohio State, by this week for the Buckeyes as well. So there's no Ohio State football to end the month of October. If you well, but let's take a look at Ohio State's remaining schedule, because Ohio State, I think, has a chance to go undefeated as well. The major question is going to be, can it beat Michigan? It hasn't defeated Michigan in quite a long time, but what it does have in front of it is a Penn State team at home. As I said, they're really struggling, but can Penn State show up for this game when it doesn't really matter whether Penn State wins or loses? They're out of the college football playoff conversation. Then it gets a Purdue team, as I just alluded to for a couple minutes, is not very good. They have a UCLA team to where if it beats Indiana this Saturday, that Ohio State game becomes ginormous, because if UCLA continues to win, that's a game where if they win, their Big Ten title hopes go up by a zillion. But they have to keep winning in order to make that a remote possibility. And then, of course, it gets Rutgers. It's the final home game of the regular season before going to Ann Arbor and playing a Michigan team that will more than likely be fighting for either a very good bowl game this season or a college football playoff appearance with an outside shot. Can Michigan get in with two losses? That remains to be seen, but it cannot afford to lose to Ohio State if it wants to advance to the college football playoff under Sharon Moore. So that remains to be seen as well. Michigan has not made the playoff in a couple of years. All right, let's move over and talk about some other Big Ten teams. Nebraska falls out of the top 25, losing to Minnesota by a near shutout, 24-6. Is Nebraska worse than everybody thought? I'm not so sure. But what I can tell you is they have a lot of work to do, and I don't think they're a very good football team at the moment. They haven't really had any signature wins this year. They had a chance to do so against Michigan. They couldn't get it done. This time was almost a layup type game. All they had to do was go into Minnesota and win. They couldn't do it, so that remains to be seen whether Nebraska can still find its way to bowl eligibility. I'm not so sure about that, but what I can tell you is they have a chance to lock up bowl eligibility this week with a win against Northwestern. All right. Speaking of Northwestern, let's talk about it. Northwestern shuts out Purdue 19-0 in the final game at the temporary Lakefront Stadium against Purdue. Should be a great game, or it was a great game from a Northwestern standpoint. They looked really well. The defense was lights out. Um, the defense was lights out. The quarterback play was really good. David Braun called a good game. They ran the ball really well. I mean, overall, I just thought this was a great team win for Northwestern. A really, really good team win. One of those wins that, if they make a bowl game, they'll look back on this game and they'll say that this was one of the best wins in recent Northwestern memory. And now Northwestern has a chance to become bowl eligible for the first time in 2 seasons. Let's take a look at Northwestern's remaining schedule, and I will tell you whether or not I believe Northwestern will make a bowl. I was right on Northwestern a year ago when midway through the season I said they wouldn't make a bowl game. Now they have a chance to get in. The question is going to be, can they find one more win to do so? Okay, so they go to Lincoln, Nebraska this week. They've had recent success in Lincoln over the last few years. I'm not sure if they can win that game. That's a huge question mark. But at the moment, if Northwestern comes in ready to go and they play a good first half, they might have a chance. USC is a good football team. I don't see them winning that game. Then you get to the 2 Wrigley games on November 15th and November 22nd. First, against number 25 Michigan and Bryce Underwood, and the other one against the Minnesota team that all of a sudden looks like they might be a sleeper contender in the Big Ten if it keeps winning. Again, huge question mark games. I think they're more than likely going to beat Minnesota, but lose to Michigan. So let me say this: I think they lose. I'm just going to be blunt. There's 1, 2, 3, 4. There's 5 games left. Unfortunately, I think Northwestern collapses. I think it loses 4 out of its next 5 games, and the only win it gets is against Minnesota to become bowl eligible at 6-6. I just think Illinois right now is too good. Illinois is still fighting for its college football playoff lives. We'll get into the Washington game in just a second. That's a gigantic game for Illinois, as I just alluded to, a college football playoff eliminator game. Michigan, same thing. USC with a real outside chance. The only game I could really see them winning is Minnesota, because Northwestern has success against Minnesota, or has had success in recent years. So I'm going to say they win one game and it goes 6-6 to end the year. They get like the Detroit, they get one of the Detroit Bowl games or something. They'll get a local game to try to go 7-6. I don't think 10-2 is in the cards. I think the end of their schedule is too tough. I think you have, at the very least, 3 guaranteed losses, maybe 4. I just think I don't see how Michigan loses at Wrigley, and I don't see how Illinois, after what happened 2 years ago in Champaign, I think Illinois wants to erase the stigma. I don't think they want to give up the Land of Lincoln trophy that easily again and have to wait another year to win it back in Evanston. I think they'll take care of business and maintain it for the second year in a row. Could it be their season, though, where Northwestern has to beat Illinois to go to a bowl game, just like it would have been 2 years ago? That's very, very much a possibility. But I think Northwestern will already be bowl eligible by then and will have done so the week before against Minnesota. Everything remains to be seen, though. The entire season for Northwestern is right in front of them. This team could either be the biggest surprise 10-2 team of the year, or they can be Northwestern and go 6-6 or 5-7 and totally just collapse under everybody's sudden surprising expectations. It remains to be seen, though. But right now, sitting here, I think Northwestern drops drops its next 3 games and isn't bowl eligible until late November. But I really hope I'm wrong, and I hope they clinch bowl eligibility this Saturday. I just don't think it's possible. So, speaking of bowl eligibility, we're going to get into bowl eligibility in just a second, but we're going to go over some of the bigger Week 9 college football games around the country, starting in the Big Ten. Let's talk about some of them. So, here we go. Let's talk about some of the other games around the league. Rutgers against Purdue. Can Purdue find a win this week? I think it's a possibility. Minnesota versus Iowa for the Floyd of Rosedale Trophy in Iowa City. That's a huge game. That's on CBS. Wisconsin is a triple digit underdog, meaning not triple, a double digit underdog, a 30+ point underdog at Oregon. I don't know what to tell you other than Oregon is going to smoke them. They'll win by like 56. They won by 46 this past week against Rutgers. I don't see how Oregon doesn't just go in there and pound them. Wisconsin's been shut out 2 weeks in a row. Wouldn't be surprised if Oregon makes it 3 weeks in a row, to be honest with you, because this Wisconsin team is just putrid, absolutely putrid. If I do say so myself, I do not love Wisconsin's outlook for the remainder of the year. And speaking of Wisconsin, let's look at their schedule to see if they can even find a win in the Big Ten. I have no idea. I don't think they can, because this is who they have left. They got to go to Oregon. They host a very good Washington team, which we're going to know more about after this Saturday when they play Illinois. Then they go to Indiana. They're going to get trounced there. Then they host Illinois on November 22nd. Could it be a trap game for the Illini where they sleepwalk and they don't play very well and they let Wisconsin stay in the game? I'm not so sure. You have to remember the last time Illinois played against Wisconsin, they blew a huge lead to lose that game in Champaign 25-21. That was a better Wisconsin team that year. So I'm not going to hold it against Brett Bielema from a game that happened 2 years ago, but that's still a relative of note. And then, of course, going to Minnesota, last game of the year for the Axe. I don't love Wisconsin's chances there. So they're staring at 2-10 without a single Big Ten win. Unless they somehow pick it up and play really good football. The final 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 games of the year to save their season. They would more than likely have to win out to even make a bowl game or win 4 out of 5. Because making a bowl game right now for the Badgers seems next to impossible unless they start pulling off some major upsets. So, not loving Wisconsin's chances entering this week. All right, let's look at some more games. All right. All right, some more games. We'll go to some outside of the Big Ten. Oklahoma, Ole Miss. That's a big game in the SEC. Syracuse and Georgia Tech. Alabama, South Carolina. That's a big game. BYU, Iowa State. I kind of like a game. I like that to be a shootout. That'll be interesting. Missouri against Vanderbilt. Is that a college football playoff eliminator? That remains to be seen. A very good Texas Tech team hosts Oklahoma State. Could Miami beat Stanford? It's a good question. Miami just got humbled by Louisville at home this past week, so Miami needs to run the table in order to have a chance to win the ACC, because right now Miami doesn't control its own destiny anymore, so that doesn't help anybody's cause. All right, A&M and LSU, that's a big game, and then of course Michigan State. That's always a hard-hitting rivalry game that's in East Lansing. Can Jonathan Smith back up his words and say that this is the biggest game of the year for Michigan State and go out and play really well? That remains to be seen, but I don't love Michigan State's chances. And then, of course, Louisville plays Boston College as well. That's another game that's of note. What other games are there that I really like? I think that's basically it for the slate. So I guess it's time now to get into predictions. So let's discuss some predictions now. We're 24 minutes in. I think it's a perfect time to let you guys know that we're about to hear from our sponsors. So, of course, stay tuned for that. Again, Bando's Breakdowns is presented by Playback. We will be right back with more, and then we will get into the second half of the show. So thanks again for bearing with me. Thank you for your patience, and we'll catch you guys in a few.
Hey fans, Novig is here to change the way you play. Available in 35 states, including California, Texas, Florida, and New York, Novig is America's #1 sports prediction market, and it's 10 times more profitable than traditional sports books because there's no house edge. Instead, you're betting directly against other sports fans just like yourself. Novig is also the only free exchange, which means you keep every dollar you win, whether you're putting plays down on the NFL, the NBA, the NHL, Major League Baseball, college sports, or even UFC and tennis. Novig gives you the power to pick the best odds, or better yet, set your own. Sign up today with the code ETB Network, and you'll get 1,000 Novig coins plus $5 in Novig cash, and special bonus offers like spending $5 and getting 50 back. Novig, where fans play smarter. You must be 21 years or older to play. Please gamble responsibly. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER.
Just wanted to give a quick timeout in the middle of the show to remind you guys that Bando's Breakdowns is presented by Playback. I teased it a little bit earlier that there was an announcement coming, and sure enough, without further ado, here we go. Presented by Playback, watching sports is more fun with others, but we spend too much of our time watching alone. Playback is a virtual space where communities can stream live sports together with everyone perfectly synced up. Creators can hop on stage, deliver their own play-by-play analysis and commentary, and invite viewers up for Q&A. Playback makes watching sports fully interactive and a social experience. From playing fantasy sports, repping your favorite players and teams, and watching with the commentators and communities you care about. Win or lose, sports are best enjoyed together. Join our community by going to playback.tv/ETV Network to find out more, including our live stream schedule. And with that, we can get back to the show. Thank you to our sponsors from Novig and Playback for their support. Speaking of Novig, Bando's Breakdowns odds are presented by Novig. Let's get into the play of the day for Novig here. Illinois, Brett Bielema, fresh off a bye, going to Washington. Washington favored by 4.5. Over under 54.5. The game is 3:30 p.m. Eastern on Big Ten Network. The biggest game of the year for Illinois. Illinois 5-2. Washington also 5-2. Let's discuss some of the parameters of this game and some keys really quick. Okay, this is why I think Vegas is being disrespectful with this line, and I'm going to tell you why. Brett Bielema off a bye is 6-1 in his Illinois coaching career. That's pretty damn good. Okay, that's number one. Number two, Illinois has yet to have a signature road win this season, at least so far. All right, that's besides Duke. If you want to count Duke, let's throw Duke in there. But usually every year, Illinois has that one signature road win that you least expect. 2 years ago, it was Maryland. Last year, it was Rutgers. From what I remember, the Rutgers game where it was the miracle touchdown by Pat Bryant. So, and then the year before, or 2 years before that, was the 9 overtime marathon against Penn State. What I'm saying is this: every year, pretty much, Illinois is a signature road win. This is the game where Illinois needs to get it done. It's simple. Luke Altmaier needs to go in there. He needs to show that he's one of the best quarterbacks in the Big Ten, and he needs to show he can outduel DeMond Williams. It's as simple as that. I don't think Washington has played the level of competition that Illinois has played outside of Ohio State, and I would happily make the argument that Illinois played much better than Washington did against the number one Buckeyes. Washington had no business being in that game, and the final score indicated that. Illinois was a couple of mistakes eliminated away from being in that game or winning that game by at least 1 point. I don't want to hear all the people say, oh, Zain, they got beat by a better team. I agree with you, but if it wasn't for a couple of small mistakes on that October 11th day, the entire landscape of college football would be different. A loss it is not. So what I'm telling you is this: Illinois has a chance to take its frustrations out on a team that is getting no respect, had the longest active home winning streak in the Big Ten, snapped by Ohio State, was humbled on the road in Ann Arbor, and was just completely trounced by a Michigan team that I think is very okay. Michigan is not the same Michigan team that it was maybe a couple of weeks ago. I really don't think they are, and I think they're very overrated to me to be number 25. I think this is a game that Illinois can go in and win. Brett Bielema has stated it all week that there's no game more important on the schedule than this week. They have to go out and win the game. Give me Illinois plus 4.5 and to win the game outright. I don't care. Illinois keeps its college football playoff hopes alive, improves to 6-2, and has a November to remember beginning next week when they come home on NBC on Dad's weekend in front of a national TV audience. I really like Illinois in this game. I understand Washington has some playmakers, and I understand a lot of people think that Illinois secondary is going to struggle against guys like Jonah Coleman and whatnot. But what people fail to realize is what about Luke Altmaier? What about Hank Beatty? What if this game turns into a track meet? And what if Illinois has the ball with 30 seconds left and they're down by 4 and Illinois has a chance to win? You don't think Luke Altmaier can orchestrate a 2-minute drill? I don't know, guys. I mean, he just proved it a month ago against USC. There's no reason why Illinois can't win this game. I'm just telling you that. I think Illinois wins. This is a signature road win for Brett Bielema. And again, I said it at the beginning of the segment. I'm going to say it again. 6-1 after the bye is nothing to snooze at. I understand Vegas may know something that we don't, but 4.5 seems like a huge number, and it seems like they're begging you to take Illinois, and I really like Illinois in this spot. And this is one of those positions to where, if they beg you to take one side, you take the other. I just can't trust Washington after scoring 7 points against a Michigan team that I don't really think is all that good. I think if Washington wanted to compete with Michigan, they would have, and Washington probably had chances to make the game interesting in the first half, and they just couldn't do it for whatever reason. So I really like Illinois in this spot. I think Illinois wins the game outright, and I'm not touching the over-under because I really don't know what the final score could be either. I don't really have a final score prediction yet, but what I can tell you is Illinois has a chance to make this thing really interesting, and I think they do enough to cover the number. So give me Illinois. All right, let's talk about the Bears and the Saints. The Bears, all of a sudden, 4 wins in a row. They made the NFC very interesting, defeating the Saints at home in its only home game in the month of October. Huge, huge win for the Bears. I really like the way they played in this game. The defense played exceptionally well against the Saints team that could just not move the ball. As my co-host on ETB Sports alluded to, Nick Morganson, Spencer Rattler looked lost. Well, who didn't look lost, though, was Caleb Williams. Caleb Williams was super efficient throwing the football. I really liked the way Rome Odunze was able to get out in space. And I just love the way overall the Bears played collectively as a unit. No one was fighting with each other. There were no bad vibes on the sideline. There was nothing like that. It's clear that the culture shift under Ben Johnson is working, and it seems like the Bears have something cooking in Chicago as the important part of the season really begins to pick up here. I really liked the way the Bears went in and won this game, and they have another tough challenge this week when they go to Baltimore. Let's talk about it now. Bears and the Ravens. The Ravens have been a shell of its former self. I'm sure they're very disappointed that Lamar Jackson has been out because this team does not look very good, and the AFC North is slipping away from them. I'm going to be honest. I think the Bears can win this game. I really do. I really do. And I think I'm going to pick them later this week. I really like the way the Bears have played as of late. The Ravens offense has struggled with Lamar Jackson. I just think overall, if the Bears can run the ball and control time of possession, they will have a chance to win this game. And they will have a chance to not only win this game, but they will have a chance to prove that not only can it win at home, it can win on the road against very, very inferior teams. And I think the Ravens are one of those. So I really like the Bears to get it done and roll its winning streak to 5 in a row. Surprisingly, after starting 0-2, one of the big surprise teams in the NFL. You can thank Ben Johnson for that. I'm just really, really impressed with what I've seen from Chicago as of late, so I'm going to keep picking the Bears until they lose. Let's briefly go over to UFC Vancouver. I don't want to spend too much time on this. We had the worst possible outing from a prediction standpoint, 3-10. Congrats to Brendan Allen, asserting himself as a UFC middleweight contender, making Ranier Ritter quit going into the final round of their main event in Vancouver. This was a dominant performance for Brendan Allen that took the fight on only a few weeks' notice. Very, very impressive win for him there. But overall, though, I went 3-10 on this card. It's a card to forget. We're going to hope to do better this coming Saturday with UFC 321. And let's talk about UFC 321, the main event of the evening, UFC Heavyweight Championship. Tom Aspinall versus Cyril Gane for the heavyweight title. Tom Aspinall is finally the undisputed UFC heavyweight champion. He finally has a fight. It took forever, but we got him a fight. It's done. It's signed. It's sealed. It's delivered. He's fighting a guy in Cyril Gane that's had two chances before losing to Francis Ngannou and John Jones, respectively. I think this is a fight that, as long as Aspinall stays ready and as long as Aspinall is focused and understands the task in hand, understands how big of a fight this is, he will win this fight. I am picking Tom Aspinall to win in the first round. I just don't think Cyril Gane is much for him. I think he's going to make the same mistakes. I think Cyril Gane is going to try to shoot in for a takedown. He'll get caught with something and he'll lose the fight because he was just simply careless. That's all it is. I really like Tom Aspinall to win in the main event this weekend and prove that he is right now the best heavyweight on the planet, while John Jones lurks and does whatever he's going to do. Because that's going to be interesting to see what John Jones' instant reaction to this fight is as the White House card looms next June. So I really like Tom Aspinall in that fight. Let's go over some more particulars of the card, though. We have a couple of title fights on the card. Besides Aspinall and Gane, we have the vacant UFC strawweight championship of the world, or at least, hang on, let me clarify that. The 14-fight card, we have the vacant UFC strawweight championship on the line. Mackenzie Dern, Verna Jandiroba. Huge fight. I really like Dern to get this done by decision. I think Dern has been on a collision course to win the belt for quite some time. She finally has the opportunity to do so without having to run into the stud that is Weili Zhang, who is going to be competing to become one of the greatest female fighters of all time when she fights Valentina Shevchenko next month at Madison Square Garden. So I really like Mackenzie Dern there. Some other notable fights: Umar Nurmagomedov, Mario Batista. I'm excited for that one. 18-1 versus 16-2 at heavyweight. Volkov versus Almeida. Volkov should be fighting for the title if it wasn't for a screw job decision when he fought Gane last winter. So that sucks for him. He's going to have to beat a guy in Almeida who's a beast. Rakic is on this card against Mirzakhanov. Haqparast versus Salkild, and a couple other awesome fights on this card. 14-fight card from Abu Dhabi, Etihad Arena. Don't miss it. ESPN Plus pay-per-view. The prelims begin at 10 a.m. Eastern, so you get a morning UFC event with, ladies and gentlemen, in the United States right before the pay-per-view commences from Abu Dhabi. I'm very excited for this card. This is one of the best cards in the entire fall. Looking very forward to seeing how this all plays out, especially as the end of the year commences. So again, 14 fights only on pay-per-view, UFC 321. Don't miss it. And I forgot to mention, Jandiroba Dern is a rematch from a fight that happened just a couple of years ago. So something to bear in mind as well with that. But that is UFC 321. We'll hope to do better on that pay-per-view as well. Let's talk about the end of the show. UMass versus Buffalo. It looked like UMass had the game won. They had an interception at the end of the game, waved bye-bye to the fans, thinking UMass was going to win its first game of the season. And sure enough, Buffalo came back to win the game. One of the craziest endings to a college football game I have seen all year long. So just something I saw that I felt I would mention and bring up. And I think it's important because we're highlighting smaller schools. So we'll try to do that more often than not. And then finally, Zain Zinger. Let's stop complaining about Big Ten TV placements, everyone. You got to understand the Big Ten has a draft. All the networks sit down and they figure out what games are going to go to what network. There's only a few games that are guaranteed a year to go to certain networks. One of them is Ohio State, Michigan at the end of the year. Fox always gets it. It's just part of the agreement. If you don't like Big Ten TV placements, guys, I don't know what to tell you. The point is people watch their team whenever they can. If they don't like the start time, too bad. It's just the nature of the territory now, guys. We have 18 schools in the league, and I'm not trying to be a spokesperson for the Big Ten. I'm just telling you the reality here. You guys got to live in the reality. And the sense is that they're doing the best they can with the network designations they have. Do I disagree with some of them at some points? Yeah, I do. But that doesn't mean that I can't watch my team or that my team isn't accessible. It's just accessible in a different way. So I'm just tired of people going online and spewing things that they really know nothing about. And I think people need to worry about the games and not what network or time the games are at. It's as simple as that. You either watch the games or you don't. So that's really all I have to say about that for my zinger this week. No errors this week, quite frankly, so that's really, really good. So just wanted to say thank you guys for that. We like an error-free show. And just as one final reminder, please be sure to listen to Bando's Breakdowns wherever you get your podcasts. Again, that's Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Acast, and so much more as well. All right, for everybody at the network, for myself, Dan Bando, just wanted to give you guys one final reminder. Bando's Breakdowns is presented by Playback. Again, go to playback.tv/ETV network to find out more, including our live stream schedule, which is going to be busy, busy, busy with the NBA, Major League Baseball, Zain Zinger Part 2, and so much more. So if you like extended ETV content, go over there, make an account, sign up for free. You will not regret it. Just want to give one more plug on that as well. But again, for everybody at the network, I'm Zain Bando. This has been Bando's Breakdowns, episode 65. Thank you so much for tuning in. I greatly appreciate all of you. I hope you have a wonderful rest of your day. We'll talk to you guys soon, and I hope you enjoyed your weekend of sports as it's going to be busy Saturday, Sunday, and beyond. So until next week for episode 66, I will see you guys soon, and hopefully we will be talking about an Illinois college football playoff saving victory. But until then, we will see you guys very soon, and I'll catch you all next week. Have a good one.